Man, if you thought that was fun, I got more for you. Stay tuned. We got the 2020 Ram with EcoDiesel in it. We're having a great time out here. More to come. It's fired up. We get started right now.
Hey, it's Tim Esterdahl, pickup truck. Let me do it again.
Who?
Hey, it's Tim Esterdahl, pickup truck plus SUV talk. You thought that was badass? You should hit the subscribe button, click the bell to be notified of new videos put out, and smash that like button because it's a truck video. You're gonna like it. We're with my buddy Bruce Smith. He is a diesel freelance writing extraordinaire. He's written about diesels since he was like a baby in diapers. This guy knows everything about diesels. We're driving the 2020 Ram 1500 with the third generation EcoDiesel in. We're in a tradesman version. It's two-wheel drive, and we have the double cab. So this should be the fuel efficiency version. 355 gears, and we've been averaging between 31 and 33. We just happened to talk to some of the Ram PR team, and they were like, wink, 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 wink. You should get better than that. Wink, 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 wink. So EPA numbers are not out as the time of this filming. There'll be another film later that will have the numbers putting out. But that's what we got in this. And our drive impressions, he's driven it. I've driven a little bit. And so far, it's kind of crazy how quiet it is when it's at speed, right?
Yeah, they've done a great job on the NVH, keeping the engine toned down. It's pretty difficult to even realize that it's a diesel.
Right.
With as quiet as it is. I was joking with one of the Ram guys and the engineers, and I looked at the truck next to us and I says, sounds like the lifters are rattling on that 5.7 Hemi a little bit. He looked at me and says, that's a diesel. But they've done a great job on the third generation here, Tim.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, and an offline speed, so this is a stop sign. And it puts you back in your seat a little bit. Yeah. You know, I mean, to me, it's not as fast as the 3-liter inline 6 from the Chevy Silverado that just came out. We were talking about that a little bit. But it's still pretty smooth. And when you get off the throttle, I'm off the throttle. It's almost like an electric car. You don't even hear anything inside the cabin.
Yeah, and very little noise coming up through the chassis and suspension. That coupled with the new noise canceling technologies, or the technology they've used on the engine to quiet it down a little bit more from the previous two generations, really makes it impressively quiet.
Yeah, I was actually looking for the check engine light. I thought something was wrong. I was like, what's going on here? But I want to get to something kind of technical that we've been discussing. I've been learning a lot about diesels on this trip and other trips. I didn't know a lot before. We're learning quite a bit. And one of the things that's new in this engine that I think it's important to know is about the charged air cooler and the new placement of it. So we were discussing how typically it's in front of the radiator and you have like a dual cooling going on. But in this case, in this engine, in the third generation, one of the big changes besides the new engine is the placement of active grille shutters on the lower fascia that open and close because they're in front of the charged air cooler, and so it keeps that air cool. Okay, out front in this new 2020 Ram EcoDiesel, we have a few changes this model year with the Gen 3 engine. We have some different ways to cool it, right?
Yeah. So in the past on the diesel trucks, much like gas trucks, you've got a radiator, right, that sits vertical in the front position here. You've got your AC condenser up front for all your cooling, and everything was somewhat stacked from front to back.
Sure.
In the heavy duty a few years back, with a diesel, you've got a charge air cooler. We call them a CAC. Because when the turbocharger compresses that air, it gets hot. So you got to cool it back down so you're not pumping hot air into the engine. Engines like cold air, not hot air.
I would think they would.
They do. It's just one of those physics things, right? That sneaks in every once in a while.
Right.
But in order to make a more efficient charge air cooler to cool things down and not pass the heat from that into the radiator, we moved the charge air cooler down into behind the bumper.
Okay,
So we did that on heavy duty a few years ago, and it worked really well for us because then the radiator wasn't receiving the heat from the charge air cooler, and all the heat just stacked up. By separating them, now I've got separate flow through the charge air cooler, separate flow through the radiator, so I can optimize the system for better performance for both intake charge air temps and my coolant temps. The other thing that's kind of cool is, part of the aero of the truck, we put grill shutters behind the grill. So it looks like kind of like just an old-fashioned window blind that opens and closes. But there's two separate units. One is for the radiator and one's for the charge air cooler. So depending on, if I need the airflow through either one, those are independently controlled and we can open them to let the air flow through. If we don't need the air, the cool part about those is it shuts the airflow off from going through the engine compartment and sends it around the truck.
Which makes it more aerodynamic.
More aerodynamic and better efficiency. So the amount of energy it takes to push the truck down the road when you're empty, you can actually reduce that by almost 10%. There's other things we did as well to support that, but the grill shutters were a big part of that improvement.
Sure. What would be a scenario, we were talking on drive out, what would be a scenario you want to close the grill shutters for the CAC?
Well, if it's minus 20 out,
and that
great example. It's already cold.
Right. You don't need additional.
You don't need additional cooling because the charge air cooler is actually cold. Actually, at that point, the heat that's coming through by the time it goes through the radiator, it's a little warmed up. Not really. But you're actually getting a little warmer air into the intake, which when it's minus 20 out, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
But on that 125 degree day, when you've got a 7,000 pound boat behind you and you're going up a hill headed to the lake, that's when they'd be open so that you can get that airflow to keep your charge temps cooler.
And that's all computer controlled up front here, so you don't think about it, you just go and it holds the temperature where you need to be.
Yep. Yeah, that's all the engine control module, all that's controlled. It's monitored, controlled, actuated so that it opens and then closes when it needs to. Because you may get a scenario where the radiator is open and the charge air cooler is closed and vice versa, but that affords us the ability to tune that cooling performance to exactly how we want it to be.
Yeah, sounds like a good, smart improvement.
Yeah, it's pretty
Maybe
cool.
Some, worked before, use it again.
Exactly.
That's a good way to do business.
Yeah, they've employed the same charge air cooler, the CAC, as what they had on the 6.7 for a while.
Okay.
Where they have two separate cooling systems, one for the turbo and the other for the engine. And so placing it down the turbo cooler, the intercooler down in the basically down right straight behind the bumper, the front bumper.
Yeah. It's
it keeps it, you're low, getting all that cool air getting rammed through it, and then the air flows through it and underneath the truck, so you're not heating up the radiator and the air conditioner condenser, as you would with a stacked cooling system. So pretty nice setup.
And that's important because how this system works is that cold air goes in the turbo, and the colder the air is, the more efficient that turbo spins, the better fuel economy you're going to get, and the better power you're going to get.
Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons they've made a little bit more power on this engine from the previous generation is from the increased efficiency of the charge air cooler, giving it a more dense flow of air and more oxygen into that into the intake.
Right, because it's the dual fold thing here on the numbers. They have more torque. So they have, was it 40 or 60 pounds? I think it was 40 pounds more torque than the prior generation at a lower RPM. And that makes a big difference.
It does.
That lower RPM, that lower torque at lower RPM makes a lot of difference when you're moving stuff, when you're towing, when you're offline just, goofing around, when you're doing burnouts that apparently who would do that?
Who would be doing burnout?
Nah, press drive burnout. No, nobody's going to do that.
Burnout.
But I mean, you get the dual factor there. They were able to do that, and then they have the dual stage EGR, right?
Correct.
I want to make sure I'm doing this dual stage right. So we were discussing this with the engine engineer, the guy from Italy, and the conversation was that the airflow they used to just dump in the intake and go out was really hot and just a waste of airflow. And now we're able to recycle that back through the EGR as with a cooler temperature to allow us to have lower NOx emissions and run just a better overall setup.
Yeah, they're using the same type of setup as what GM is using on the baby, the mid-sized Duramax.
Yeah, we said toddler or adolescent.
It's the middle child. It's the middle
whatever
child.
you want to call it.
Where they're using a high and a low, a high-low system in there. So, the air going back through the exhaust, the EGR system It's got dual cooling, which really helps reduce soot buildup and carbon buildup in the EGR valve. So it's a nice setup, and I think that's going to be the standard. It's pretty much become the industry standard, for 2020.
Here we are in the 2020 Ram EcoDiesel, making a right turn, have a big boat behind me. We're thinking that they said 5,500 pounds in a boat. I will double check that. 56 grand if you're curious. We have the 392 rear end. This is the crew cab limited 4x4, and with the incomparable Sue Mead.
I'm happy to be with you. Thanks for taking me along for the ride today.
Oh, sure, yeah. Not that she begged me and twisted my arm and all that kind of stuff. That actually happened behind the scenes. It really happened. So this is the new EcoDiesel. It's a new 3-liter. We're doing driving today. This is in part of another video I did earlier today. I'm going to slide this in. That's why you're watching it. So this is, like I said, the new 480 foot-pounds of torque monster at lower RPMs. We are making a left, and I'm going to try to get off the line here. And I want to just feel how it handles off the line here. I'm going to turn in front of this car because I can. This car is going to be like, oh my God, what's that guy doing?
Just make sure you clear the boat. We're through.
All right, yeah. I was looking at the boat, yeah, right? We're safe. Sorry, Yamaha rep. Your boat is screwed. So I'm going up a hill here. I'm going up quite a bit of grade. I can't tell. It's Minnesota. I have no frame of reference how much this grade is. I'm going to say 4% would be my guess. The foot is down on the pedal. Tow haul mode engaged. Fuel economy just hit the tank big time. I was at 11.6. Now I'm at 5.5. And it's going to fluctuate here. We're going to do a 20-minute loop. And what I'll do is I'll get top here, and maybe I'll stop the video and catch up with you guys on the way down and tell you the final mile per gallon we're going to get. But
and you have a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit coming into this little town.
Oh, I do. Yeah, no tickets. So that was pretty powerful. I don't have any complaints there at all. I don't feel like I needed more power. I was foot down. We were at undisclosed speeding speed over 40 miles an hour pretty quickly climbing the hill.
It pulled in a really nice, steady fashion. It's been set up well. The trailer on the back of this, I certainly noticed some more diesel noise. I was really appreciative of the fact that other than under full power on my way here not towing, it's really quiet.
It is shockingly quiet. I thought the engine was turning off.
Yeah.
I was going to check that. So yeah, there we go. 7.4 now, so it's going to fluctuate. Let's finish 20-minute loop. I'll turn the camera back on and tell you the final towing and final thoughts. So on towing aspect of this EcoDiesel. All right, we're pulling back in the off-road park here. Did, I don't know, 20-minute drive, wide open throttle at times, 40 mile per hour at times. About 60 miles an hour was about the top speed I was kind of doing. Fuel economy, I have at 12.6 miles per gallon with the boat, and towed. You could tell it was louder in the cabin, right, when you're towing, but it's still quieter truck than what old 3/4 tons were towing. And, you know, when you're not towing, it's whisper quiet.
Exactly. It's not objectionable in any measure. There's just a little more noise, but you're in tow haul mode, so your gearing is pushing that sound through the system, correct?
Yeah, I would say overall I'm pretty impressed with it. I mean, this is what 3/4 tons used to do, was this kind of towing, and this truck does it, and it's quieter and it's more fuel efficient. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the rest of the video I did with my friend Bruce Smith in the truck and talk more diesels.
All right, check it out. We're going through some big water here. 2020 Ram Rebel EcoDiesel. It's basically the same Rebel as years past, but we got the diesel. So Trevor, my man here from Ram, used to be with Jeep, knows off-roading. What do you think the diesel really gives you off-roading that the gas doesn't?
Well, the diesel engine actually provides you, with that extra torque, right? So, I mean, when you're off-roading, you want that low-end torque. So, I mean, if you're going to take your, especially, here, now we're offering Rebel with the diesel. Now you can go off-roading with your diesel and you have that low-end torque. So, it's tough to beat that.
Yeah, so you get this off-roading, you get the diesel that is the only thing in the market, right? I think the other players really do that.
No, I mean, there are other options, but they're not our EcoDiesel. So,
yeah.
We do lead in power, we lead in torque. We have some other stuff too that we're very proud of. So there you go. So if you're looking for an off-roading rig, diesel is definitely a good choice. Low-end torque, great for climbing up hills, great for getting going descent too, because it'll hold you in that kind of gearing and help you going down. Just a good all-around choice, and you get good fuel economy. It does,
and it's a damn diesel. It sounds badass. Tell your friends,
cool, right?
I'm driving a diesel. All right, cool. So there you go. There's on the Ram diesel in the Rebel. Just real quick, kind of tell you what's going on there in the off-roading. Boom. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of improvements to the engine. I put a link above to the engineer talking about all the stuff going on. I have a link to that video where I'm going to interview him, so you can get more details about that. But I can tell you, driving impressions and driving around, it's smooth, it's powerful, maybe not as fast as a Silverado, but it's not like it's a big difference. And fuel economy, my fuel economy right now is 29.8, but it's been climbing. I'm told, again, wink, wink, I should be mid-30s is kind of what Ram, I think, is hoping for. But that's going to vary by truck. It's going to vary by what truck you buy, what gear ratio you buy, and things like that. The other cool part of this diesel is that, like in this case, this is the tradesman. It's available in every model.
Every trim.
Every trim. It's going to be in the Rebel, it's going to be in the Longhorn, it's going to be in the Tradesman. And so they're really opening up that playbook to allow any consumer to buy whatever they want versus other manufacturers that only hold it in certain trim levels. And the other interesting part is that the second generation EcoDiesel is going to still be sold on the 2019 Classic. That's the prior generation truck through the end of the year, and that to me is just an inventory play. They just got more engines they need.
It's also because the Classic, because where the new charge air cooler is located, the Classic has a different front end, so it can't accommodate the new the lower charge air coolers set up in the bumper. So they're trying to run out. Obviously, want to get rid of their second gens, for that reason. But also because it would be too costly probably to revamp the front end of the Classic to accommodate the charge air cooler that's on the new motor.
Sure. So I think that's the basics you need to know. I mean, fuel economy is really good, smooth, quiet power. We're going to do some towing later on with that, and I'll do put some towing in this video when I do it. And, well, there you go.
Well, and too, Tim, don't forget the engine. You mentioned about engine RPM being about 400 RPM lower. This engine used to make peak torque around 2,000 RPM, and now it's 1,600. So to offset that on power and torque, they increased the boost. They didn't tell us how much at the moment, but the new turbo that they're using is producing more torque or more boost than it did in the previous generation. So that's how they've offset lower engine RPM and still keep the maximized torque coming in lower as crank up the boost.
Well, and cranking up the boost is always fun.
Oh yeah,
always a good time. Hey, for more of a good time, make sure you check us out on pickuptrucktalk.com. Those 3 words work again. 3 words: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you type in Pickup Truck Talk, we're there. Trust me, I've done it. Do it. You can find us there. Make sure you hit subscribe if you like this video, hit the like button, do all that kind of cool stuff. Leave me comments below. This is Pickup Truck Talk. Comments are encouraged. Details, concerns, how much I weigh, my hair today, things you really guys care about. As usual, and as always, thanks for watching. We will see you down the road.